So what I'm hearing here is that the old Ronald Reagan line, if they won't see the light, make them feel the heat. Voters who are concerned about this really need to communicate directly with their members of Congress and state legislators where appropriate. That to me is
No question.
it ain't over. They need to be active if they're concerned about this issue.
There's not a senator or congressman who is beholden to Mo Brooks, a congressman from the state of Alabama, but they're every one of them subject to the judgment of their employers, and their employers are the citizens of the United States, and they will listen to the citizens of the United States if that voice, that chorus, that cacophony of citizenry is loud enough to penetrate the barriers, the fog that has been erected around Capitol Hill. So my challenge to the American people, if you want honest and accurate elections, now is the time to demand them. Now is the time to act. And in my judgment, this is the most important election in the history of the United States, with the possible exception of 1860 between Douglas and Lincoln, which of course resulted in the Civil War and hundreds of thousands of American lives being lost. That's how serious this particular election is. That's how serious the threat to our election system is, and how important it is for the citizenry to act or risk losing their republic.
Yeah, it's been frustrating from our perspective as we've been litigating and educating people about dirty voting rolls, highlighting the fact that the left was planning to do this, that we knew this was going to be the result, and to have folks in public positions of influence and power just kind of stand by. And the position right now of the Republican leadership in the Senate is, forget about whether you should win or lose. They don't even want to have the debate. They don't want to have the debate. And if you're if you're listening right now, and I'm sure Congressman Brooks has already read these briefs, and I'm a layman, I always encourage people to read legal things. Don't presume that the lawyers know everything, especially in matters of political lawsuits. I think it's a fair way to call them. But the lawsuits filed by the Trump campaign in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Nevada, the filing made by the Trump folks in the Pennsylvania, related to Pennsylvania before the Supreme Court. I don't know how any elected official could read those and not think, oh my gosh, we're going to put the wrong man into the presidency unless we stop, unless we take action. They cheated, they broke the rules, they counted votes they shouldn't have counted. Those votes went and were tipped the election in favor of the wrong candidate. And if the lawful votes had been counted, we wouldn't be having this debate. This is not we don't have to worry about whether anyone committed fraud other than they broke the law, which is kind of a meta fraud. This is a straightforward case that you had several states in unprecedented fashions count ballots they weren't allowed to count, contrary to their own state laws.
To be clear and to emphasize what you just said, Congress set a date for an election. The essence of an election is casting votes. Now, we did have minor exceptions for disabled, people overseas, people out of their state, what have you. And any vote that was cast outside of that 24-hour window set by Congress is cast in violation of Article 1, Section 4 of the United States Constitution, is cast in violation of the portion of the United States Code that sets that one day for the election. And then there are a lot of other processes and procedures that you've identified that are in violation of the state laws that were passed in supplement to what the United States Congress did. And in particular, but not by way of limitation, the egregious violation of the Constitution and state law was most prominent in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. And I should add one very important point. We had policy reasons in the United States Congress for setting a 24-hour window in which to cast votes. We had policy reasons for why we thought it best to secure the secrecy ballot rights of American citizens by requiring them to cast their ballots at voting precincts where you have walls around you and you can cast your ballot or fill out your ballot in secret and then put it in the machine where no one else can discover what your vote is. And there's one report I would encourage every member of this audience to read. That report is a Commission on Federal Elections report in 2005, chaired by Democrat Jimmy Carter, president, and chaired by Republican White House Chief of Staff, James Baker. And they focus on exactly the problems associated with the 2020 election, whether it be the violation of Article 1, Section 4, their opposition to mass mailing of ballots because it's so susceptible for fraud. That's their language, not mine, although I agree with it. To the requirement of some kind of identification like photo ID, rather than just being able to walk in and declare whoever you want to say you are so you can vote in that person's name. That was a major weakness. That report also identified a significant threat posed by non-citizens voting, where non-citizens are canceling out the votes of American citizens. And they prophesied that unless the United States of America dealt with this problem, this is a prophecy from 2005, we were going to be exactly where we are today. We're in a close election. The American people are going to have lost faith in their election system. So that's what this is all about. And it's not unexpected. We were all warned. Read that report. After you read that report, you'll understand how the Democrats saw those weaknesses and so willingly exploited them by engaging in massive voter fraud and election theft in the 2022 election, which in my judgment thwarts the will of the American people. In particular, I'll close with this. In my judgment, the evidence is overwhelming and compelling that if you only counted lawful votes cast by eligible American citizens, Donald Trump won the Electoral College and Joe Biden lost the Electoral College.
Well, as you point out, it's ultimately up to Congress and maybe after that, and maybe a Supreme Court decision or two to clarify whether the next president reflects the reality as you suggest. And it's quite possible it won't. But on the other hand, it seems to me we have a positive constitutional obligation, those of us who love the rule of law, to make sure that the lawful winner is installed as president as opposed to the winner who got there as a result of legislation.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all the latest news from Judicial Watch.